What's up, NBA fans? Dom2K on the mic, and at the moment we don't know a whole lot about NBA 2K18. We know it's gonna look great on the consoles because it's looked great pretty much since 2K14 came out, and it actually looks improved from 2K17. And we've had some information about some game modes here and some features that are gonna be in the game, but we don't know anything about the gameplay or if that damn computer is actually gonna be able to think for itself this year. Despite that, we did get some pretty interesting information regarding teams in the game, especially since in my last 2K17 video I talked about how they needed to add historic teams, and they've done so. Not only are they going to be giving all 30 franchises their own all-time teams, but there's going to be 16 new legend teams added to the game, or historical teams. Now that's pretty damn awesome, because if you consider how many teams we already have right now, I don't know the exact count, but we already have a lot of legend squads. And when I sat down to do this video, I honestly got stuck around 12 or 13, so I think they're going to cover a lot of the teams that we've been begging for years past. Now, I didn't see information on if they're actually going to keep every team they already have and add 16 on top of those, or if they're going to swap some out, because there has been years where they had certain teams and then those teams end up disappearing. Like, I'm pretty sure 2K11 or 12 had the Kings in it, and I don't think they even had Chris Webber, but that team just kind of randomly disappeared and nobody said anything about it. So hopefully they add these 16 teams on top of what we already have. But regardless of that, today I'm going to be going through 16 teams that I think should be added to the game, and I think a lot of them are going to be, because unless they really reach, these are the teams that they're really missing. Just want to mention that this list is not going to be in any particular order, and I think some franchises are going to get 2 more teams added, like how they already have like 6 Bulls teams. I think to reach 16 teams and not be ridiculous, I think they're going to have to give a couple of Laker teams here, and yeah, I think they're going to be duplicating. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So we can go ahead and start with that. For number 1, I 100% expect there to be a 2K9 or 2K10 Lakers team in there. It was already kind of ridiculous that NBA 2K17 was supposed to be based around Kobe Bryant, or at least the Legend Edition was, and then we didn't even get a new Kobe Bryant team. There was only one Kobe Bryant in the game offline anyways, and that was the one for the 2001 Lakers, but we were begging them to add the 2K9 or 2K10 one with Pau Gasol, because that's when he went to the finals 3 straight times, that's when he won without Shaq. This team is long overdue. Now, you could go with 2K9 or 2K10, I'm not really sure, because one has Ron Artest at the small forward, one has Trevor Ariza at the small forward, so that's why I say they might duplicate it and add them both, because to reach 16 I really think they're gonna have to. For number 2, it's now been 6 seasons since the Dallas Mavericks upset the Miami Heat in the 2011 NBA Finals, and I think it's about time that they get their just due and go ahead and get a historic spot in NBA 2K. We don't have a Jason Kidd offline right now, but we have 2 Steve Nashes. We have a Steve Nash from, I believe, the 2003 Mavericks, and we have one from the Suns. And it's kind of weird that they would add that Mavericks team to the game but not have the 2011 Mavericks, so I definitely think that's coming to the game. For number 3, I think the 2K12 Thunder might make a reappearance. They gave the 2012 Heat their just due and put them in 2K16, I believe. I think that was their first appearance, so enough time has passed to put the Thunder in. Now, yes, they didn't win the championship, but if you watch my video about the top 2K teams of all time, the Thunder were definitely on there, because Kevin Durant, Westbrook, and then Harden coming off the bench, and being able to start Harden if you wanted to, that was a hell of a team. If you remember NBA 2K12, that was one of the teams that everybody was using, and they were just extremely hard to beat. And I think just based off of the fact that this was a fan favorite, it's time to go ahead and bring them back in, especially since they're putting in 16 teams. I kind of feel like the 2012 Thunder should be in there. I said earlier it was the 2012 Heat they put in the game, but I just remembered the one that they have in the game actually has Ray Allen, so that's probably the 13 Heat. But my point remains the same. It hasn't been that many years since either of these teams were around, so I think it's time to stick the Thunder in. So for the number 4 spot, it's definitely time to bring back Reggie Miller into the game. We have Ray Allen, we have Steph Curry. It's only right that we have the original and Reggie Miller, but I don't know what team they're going to bring him back on. At this point, I feel like, you know, they have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you got Michael Jordan, so Reggie Miller should not feel above NBA 2K. I don't know why he hasn't been in the game, but it's time for him to go ahead and be in it. So which Pacers team are they going to select? I mean, they could go with a 98 team that almost eliminated the Bulls. They took them to 7 games. They could go with the 2000 team that actually went to the NBA Finals, and surprisingly enough, they could pick the 2005 team, because if you guys remember, the 2005 Pacers were actually supposed to be very good. They were slated to maybe make the NBA Finals, but the whole malice at the Palace ruined everything. But that squad was good. They had Reggie Miller, Steven Jackson, Metta World Peace, Jermaine O'Neal, and Reggie Miller was a bit older at that time, but you know, who cares? If he's in the game, you're gonna have users edit his stats and they're gonna make him young again. So I fully expect the Pacers team to be in this game, and I would be really disappointed if they didn't, because we've been waiting forever. Number 5, I think the Kings are definitely coming back. The 2002 Kings to be specific, the one that everyone thinks got robbed by the Lakers and the referees, and then, you know, maybe the they did, but it's time for them to go ahead and be in 2K so people can possibly right that wrong. You know, this time, if they have the Kings in the game, please have Chris Webber in it, because if my memory is not failing me, I kind of remember that Kings roster, and I think it was 2002. Yeah, they had him in the game in 2K13, I believe, but they didn't have Chris Webber, so that defeated the entire purpose of having that Kings team in there. So I only want to see this Kings team in the game if Chris Webber is there. It would definitely be cool to have Chris Webber and Reggie Miller appear in the game in the same year. I think that would make a lot of people happy, and it just makes sense. You know, it's been 15 years and people still talk about the 2002 Kings, so definitely time for them to come into 2K. For my number 6 spot, I think this is another situation where we might possibly have duplicates, or we might see either or. So I think the Spurs are going to get 1 or 2 teams in this game, because obviously they won a lot of championships, so there's a big thing they can select from. Tim Duncan, we have him in the game, but we have like his rookie version or a second year version, the year that he won the championship, I believe. But we would love to have him from like 2014 to 2007, don't you think? Especially 2007, and I think those are 2 specific teams that they might add to the game. 2K showed us in NBA 2K16 that they're not afraid to add a team that's relatively young, because they did that with the Miami Heat. So right now it's 2017, we're going into 2018, and the Spurs won the championship in 2014, so I don't doubt that they add the 2014 Spurs in here. I mean, Tony Parker is on his way out, Ginobili is probably in his last year. It would make sense to go ahead and put one of the best teams of all time, one of the best passing teams of all time. I think they can really make the game. And then the 2007 squad that made it and destroyed the Cavaliers, I think they have a strong case too, because some people say that might be their best team, where Tony Parker won Finals MVP, and obviously everyone is a lot younger at that time. That's 10 years ago now. So I think the 2007 Spurs make a ton of sense, because we do have a younger Tim Duncan, but we don't have a young Tony Parker or a young Ginobili in the game. So if you give us 2007, all of them are around a nice age, and I think we would all be happy with that. At number 7, it is finally time to have Charles Barkley on his own team in this game. I have no clue how we went this long and we don't have a Charles Barkley Suns team, and obviously it would be the one that made it to the NBA Finals to play the Chicago Bulls, so the 1993 Suns. This would also give us Kevin Johnson, who was awesome, and Dan Marley, but again, we've had Charles Barkley for both Dream Teams now, because he came in on 2013 and he came in this year for the Dream Team, but there's no way to actually include him on a main roster, because you can't edit the Dream Team, you can't trade players from the Dream Team, so you can't have Charles Barkley in your My Leagues or anything that you do offline. And it makes very little sense to me that we've had Charles Barkley in 2 Dream Teams, but we don't have him on his own team. So imagine the fan reaction for NBA 2K if they were to add Barkley, Webber, and Reggie Miller all in the same year. I think that's something a lot of people would really look forward to. Moving on, I think we could actually see even another Lakers team in the game, and it could be the 2004 Lakers. Yes, Karl Malone and Gary Payton were a little bit older, and Malone got injured, and they had that terrible finals against the Detroit Pistons, but I think a lot of people would still love to have the 04 Lakers in the game, especially as something to combat the Warriors online. I'm not really sure that would work, because the style of basketball the Warriors play, I'm not sure you want to have Karl Malone and Shaq out there trying to guard people, but you know, whatever, it would probably give you another cheese team, because even though they are a little bit older, you still have Kobe, Shaq, Payton, and Malone, and I think you could cheese with that online. I think that would be pretty fun to add the 04 Lakers in. For my 9th spot, I am rooting for the Orlando Magic from 2009 to be added back into this game. Now, I know a lot of people, including myself, feel like if the 2009 Magic had to face the Celtics with Kevin Garnett instead of him sitting on the sideline, they probably wouldn't have made the NBA Finals, but that does not change the fact this team still, they kicked ass, man. They were a good team. You had Dwight Howard when he was far and wide the best center in the NBA, very athletic, still winning Defensive Player of the Year awards, bringing down shot clocks. Dwight was awesome, and we don't have an awesome version of Dwight Howard in this game, so I think that would be pretty good, and it's a great 3-point shooting team, so they really fit with the style of basketball today and a lot of the teams that are already in the game. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see if they're gonna add this 2009 Magic squad back in. Next in, I want some justice for D Rose, and I want the 2011 Bulls in this game. Now, they only won 1 game in the Eastern Conference Finals, they didn't win anything, but this is the best version of Derrick Rose that we're likely ever gonna see, because after all the knee injuries and everything that's happened, it's pretty safe to say he's never gonna reach MVP level, and the good people over at 2K don't think highly of this guy, because they just stuck him with a 78 rating today, and I was really surprised when I saw that, because last season was one of his best seasons after all these injuries he's had. I know he got injured again, but I don't believe durability affects a rating. Like, if you go and edit a player and you bring durability down, I don't think that affects the actual rating. Maybe I'm wrong, but he shouldn't be a 78. Anyways, until he improves his play and proves 2K wrong, that's what we're with for right now. So I would love to see the 2011 Bulls in, just so we have the MVP form and, you know, the crazy Derrick Rose layup package back when he was lightning quick. I would absolutely love that squad. At the 11th spot, we need a team that a lot of people have been begging for a long time, and we need them now more than ever. We need a Denver Nuggets team with a prime Carmelo Anthony and Allen Iverson on the squad. I've seen this team being requested forever, and yes, they didn't even really get close to winning anything, but it would be awesome because right now Carmelo Anthony, I'm not even sure what his 2K rating is, but obviously on the Knicks his career is just kind of falling away. He's not as good as he used to be, and he's the only Carmelo in the game. So, you know, a lot of people forget Carmelo was a bad boy back then with the Nuggets, and he was easily a top player in the league. So we would have that, and we would have a usable Iverson team, because I think a lot of you agree with me in saying that the Iverson team that we have right now, it sucks. Nobody wants to use it. I've played NBA 2K Online for a long time that we've had the Iverson in the game, because, you know, that goes back to like the PS3 versions, and nobody ever wants to use that team because it's just Allen Iverson by itself. So, you know, what better way to give Iverson a team and give us a young Melo at the same time than to bring back one of these 08 or 07 teams. Actually, earlier I was saying 09 in there because, yeah, that's a really good version of Melo too. I think that was probably the best Nuggets team he had when they made the Western Conference Finals, and that Nuggets team actually had Chauncey Billups when they traded Allen Iverson. So, to be honest, I would be cool with either or if they gave us both of them, because that was probably Carmelo Anthony's best chance for an NBA Finals back then. But yeah, I think I would probably prefer the one with Iverson because of what I said earlier. I would just like to be able to, you know, use Iverson online competitively and not have to depend on him to score 45 points for me to win a game. So we're now at the 12th spot, and as I said earlier, this is when it started to get really hard. I had to sit here hard and think about what teams they were going to add, and this is why I think on this list a lot of these teams that I named are going to appear, because I just don't know who else you would really go to at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call these teams my dark horse teams, because I don't really know if 2K would add them, but you know, if they're trying to get to 16, then I think it makes sense. So I'm going to start with the 2008 Hornets. Obviously right now Chris Paul is on the Rockets, and he's getting up there in age, and it's probably only going to go downhill from here. So why not go ahead and save yourself the time and just go ahead and add a younger Chris Paul into the game. And I think if you go around to that 2008 year, that's around the time where people really thought he deserved MVP, and this was also the best Hornets team he had. I believe they won about 56 games. They took the San Antonio Spurs to 7 games, and that Hornets team wasn't bad. They had Peja Stojakovic, Tyson Chandler, David West. That was a good team, so I would definitely love to see the Hornets. I love the jerseys, I love their arena, and I think that would be a good add if you're trying to stretch it and make the 16 teams. For the 13th spot, I'm going to stretch it and say we might see a version of the 97 Rockets. This was like an older super team experiment where they had Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler was obviously a bit older by this point, and they had Charles Barkley, who was definitely not the Suns' Charles Barkley, but that was still a good team. They made it to the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Jazz. So if you're trying to get to 16 teams, I think it would be pretty cool because, again, this gives us another version of Charles Barkley, so you can just double down on that. And I think a lot of people would have fun with Clyde Drexler and Hakeem, because Hakeem could still play by that point. And I think it would also be cool because right now, I don't really like the Rockets team they have. I usually skip out on putting them in my leagues because they never win that many games, because Hakeem Olajuwon is really the sole star on there. Everyone else around him is really just role players. So in a way, even though this team didn't win the championship, for NBA 2K, I think this would be a better suited team. I think they would be more competitive and more fun to use. For number 14, now I'm starting to use the extreme reach. I'm talking like the Fantastic Four Dr. Reed type of reach, and I'm gonna say we get the 02 or 03 Nets. This is like life insurance just in case we don't get Jason Kidd on the Mavericks, and it also kind of saves time for us to have to edit Jason Kidd on the Mavericks, because that's obviously when he was way older, and you know, to get a prime Jason Kidd we would have to edit his stats down and download them from another user, so we could, you know, cut corners here and just get the 02 or 03 Nets that made it to the NBA Finals. I think that would be pretty fun. I would definitely use Jason Kidd in my leagues. I would never use the Nets, but it would be awesome to have Jason Kidd. At the 15th spot, I'm looking at maybe the 77 Portland Trailblazers. Now if you notice, I don't think I named any teams older than the 90s, and because when you start going back that far, 2K tends to have a lot of guys missing. So I looked at like the 71 Lakers, and there's a lot of like John Smiths and generic faces on there, and it makes them pretty easy to beat because you can take advantage of their benches. Now if they could do the 77 Blazers right, it would be worth having Bill Walton for like one of the very few years he was good in the NBA. Obviously that was not his fault, he had a lot of injuries and whatnot, but I think having a dominant Bill Walton in the game would be awesome, and maybe it would prompt the younger generation to learn about him, because I sure learned a lot about him by reading this somewhere, and it was pretty interesting, so I would like to have him in the game. And last but definitely not least, we need No Chill Gil in the game. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about Gilbert Arenas. I believe No Chill Gil is his Instagram handle, and yeah, he lives up to that name. He says a whole bunch of savage shit on his Instagram. Go check it out. But yeah, that would be awesome to have Gilbert Arenas in the game. On my list, I have it written down as the 06 Wizards because that's the year that they had Arenas, Antoine Jameson, and Caron Butler. But to be honest, I don't care what year of Gilbert Arenas you give us, just give us him. And also have that animation where when he hits a buzzer beater, he walks away with his hands up like he knows it's going in, because it usually does. I would die to see that in 2K. And then if Gilbert Arenas is in the game, you can also have him in My League. So you know the part in My League where you have like the social media tab and you have a bunch of people tweeting a bunch of generic stuff? You can have like an Instagram tab for you can have like a live Instagram feed tab for Gilbert Arenas and all the savage stuff that he posts on Instagram. I would absolutely die for that, but you know, then 2K would probably be rated M, and that's a whole nother can of worms. So maybe we can just stick to watching him roast Roy Hibbert. I could go for that too, but you get the point. Give us Gilbert Arenas. And there you have it. Those are my best guesses for the 16 teams that they're going to add to 2K. I feel like over the years we might have taken for granted how many historic teams they actually have. I know it got stale in 17 that they didn't add any, and that definitely pissed me off because there's definitely teams that they should have added, like the Lakers. But you know, when I made this list, I was like, wow, they're adding 16. I really struggled to get to 16. It took me about 20 minutes to come up with the last like 4 teams. So the fact that there is 16 new historic teams tells me one of 3 things. Either 1, they're taking some teams out. 2, they're adding a lot of the teams that I mentioned on here, because how else you would get to 16, I don't know. Or 3, they're gonna have a lot of duplicates of like Lakers and Spurs teams, which I kind of hope not, because I do want a variety, and that would lessen the chance of us getting a guy like Chris Webber or Charles Barkley. But anyways, in a few days we will know, so you can come back to this video in like a week or so and see what was right and see what was wrong. Anyways, leave your comment in the comment section below about what teams you think are going to be added. You know, good luck coming up with teams that I didn't name here, because I don't know where else you're going to go, like what, the 68 Sixers or something like that. I don't know, but you know, I'd love to see the comments anyways. Put that down there. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on my future videos. And if you didn't see my last one, you can go still enter into the NBA 2K17 giveaway. There is still time for that. That's going to be running for a good 2 weeks, and you can see my face reveal on Instagram if you haven't already. So you can go follow that, Dom_2K. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.